The Heed the Call podcast. I'm going to get my sack back, Brett.
Hey, I'm Marc Sessler. Today I'm here on Heed the Call with our producer of note, Justin Graver. And what's the reason for this? Well, our fearless host, Dan Hanzus, is at what I incorrectly called a children's fair, but it's apparently like his children are at school singing some sort of Christmas type song. So we're very excited for the entire family. He hopes to join us later today, and I hope this isn't a personal 9/11 for the listener in his absence. But Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You know, Dan is doing his best. He's got stuff to do, and the show has to go on. We can't just not record on time. We have beat writers who join us on Thursdays who have practices to get to. So we just got to make it work, and that's what we're doing.
We've got to make it work. We're here in a very important week of football, week 16, and there is a lot happening. I do think one thing, Justin, I don't remember a season where you get this late in the year, but there isn't a lot of playoff drama. We kind of know for the most part who the teams are. And there's some wild card slotting, but it's there isn't wow, the next 3 weeks are going to create massive turmoil and new trajectories.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to get hurt on one of these teams that's locked in, and that team's going to have to go on a 3-game losing streak to close the season for anything to change in the current playoff picture, especially in the AFC. The NFC, the NFC West is up for grabs, and that's going to dictate a lot of who makes the playoffs at the end of the day. The NFC North, that game between the Vikings and the Lions in Week 18 looms, but that's going to determine the seeding order more so than the actual teams who make the playoffs.
It does, and it's kind of fortunate and lucky, it always is, but especially now that we've got two NFC West hardcore beat writers, Jourdan Rodrigue and Mike Dugar. Welcome on in, guys. Can we get by without Dan, do you think? How are we feeling about this?
We have no choice.
He's the queen bee, bitch.
He really is. He really is.
But you guys were extremely patient with me this morning with my sound and technical.
I'm the queen bee, bitch.
Thanks, Dan. That's one of my favorite drops. You guys were great with me this morning on my technical difficulties. So we have no Dan and half a Jourdan. So it's good. It's all fine. We have 300% Marc and Mike and Graver.
Yeah, and that could be way too much of Marc. I'm sure people will be commenting on that. Well, we might as well dive in. You're going to have sound of me on top of me and Dan on top of me. So that's how it works, Justin. You're Justin's power. Justin's just going to, there's no one in control of Justin, and we know what he's been doing all morning before we kicked off here. So big problems ahead. Well, we'll start with these primetime games. Tampa Bay at Dallas. How are we feeling about that, Jourdan?
I mean, I've loved the Bucs all year. I think they've put together a really fun season, and what I like about what the Bucs offense has done this year, and particularly what Liam Cohen, who is definitely going to get some calls this head coaching cycle, and you hear some excitement about him start sort of murmuring out from where all these whispers come from this time of year, from the Stork. So he has put together a really fun problem-solving type of offense this year. They create explosive plays. They run the ball well. They pass the ball well, despite, having God knows who at receiver sometimes during the middle of the season when Chris Godwin and Mike Evans were out and Jalen McMillan had to be the go-to guy and a couple of guys had to step up. And it's been fun. I think that's what's more so than anything going to get Liam Cohen those interviews and those calls, is not just because he's run an effective and explosive offense, but also because he's solved a bunch of problems in a bunch of different scenarios. They've won different ways this year. I'm excited to watch this game. I think it'll be fun.
It's interesting that Baker Mayfield helped Dave Canales get a job after last season. And now on the top of my notes, I was like, is Liam Cohen about to get his phone ring off the hook for what he's done? Baker Mayfield quietly sits behind only Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow in terms of touchdowns. That is an upset, because I think people thought he's good. He's slotted correctly somewhere outside of the top 10, but look at the way he's playing. They were dominant last week. Mike, did the Cowboys, can they upset the apple cart here?
Oh, probably not. No, their offense. I don't like watching their offense at all. I'm with Jourdan though. I do really enjoy watching the Bucs. They feel like they remind me a little bit of the Lions currently, minus the coach going on the radio swearing, because they got decimated by injuries on defense earlier in the year. They were just putting whoever out there for a second. And then it happened on offense, and they were just fine. They were just like, we'll just find new guys to make plays. Every team has to go through that to some extent, but we are seeing some teams handle it a lot better than others. Like the Bucs are handling it way better than like the Niners, for instance, particularly on offense. Like when they didn't have Mike and they didn't have Chris, and they still don't have Chris, they were like, all right, cool, Kate Otten, can you just be Gronk for like a month? And he was like, yeah, I can, and then Mike came back and they were fine. So I think I mentioned it like a few shows ago, like there are some teams whose quarterback just looks really comfortable when you're just like, hey man, your arm is how we're going to get it done today, in part because of how they played in college. Like Baker's very clearly comfortable throwing 60 times a game, throwing lasers, maybe to his team, maybe to your team, but he's comfortable with that. And I've been really impressed by how often he's, like you mentioned, getting it in the end zone. I do like, we talked about the Cowboys defense last week. Man, they're like quietly up to like 10th or an EPA per play since Micah's been back. The lead in the league in pressure rate since then. I think that's since week 9. Micah is back to being like, if you don't block him, you will die. I felt so bad for Bryce Young last week because when I just looked up, I rewatched the game later, but in real time, I just looked up and like, well, there's number 11 on Bryce again. All right, let me go back to doing something else because that drive is killed. So I do think if they have a chance, I don't think the Cowboys do, but if they are going to have a chance, it's just going to be because number 11's all over our screen, just killing Baker.
Yeah, they lead the league in sacks over the past 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. They really do. And like I think the one thing though, they struggle against the run, and I think Liam Cohen, Jourdan, has really changed the narrative on the Bucs like ground attack. I watching Bucky Irvin, like I really love this player, and like I really think that's a way that it's balance around Baker. He's been well protected. They can run the ball. They're very interesting heading into the playoffs.
It's so interesting too. By the way, Mike Evans is 251 yards away from hitting his streak. We were concerned. We were so concerned like a week ago that maybe, and then he went off for 159 yards. We were texting about this in our group chat. It's just, he is, I will never get tired or take for granted watching Mike Evans play football. I so hope he gets the streak. I don't care about the 17-game argument. Get the streak, Mike. Like, he would tie Jerry Rice's record of 11 consecutive seasons with at least 1,000 receiving yards. But to your point, Mark, and really to Mike's point too, this is kind of the inverted vibes Lions team, right? Like, it really is. They both have been decimated by injuries. And one has a head coach who's like so fired up, and that's great. His team responds to it. And the other has a head coach who is so chill. He's so calm. And you never know what like dastardly pressure he's going to send at you, which they just had. Sometimes they can have these quarterbacks in absolute knots with some of the things that Todd Bowles likes to do. And Todd Bowles was even in the media. I think it was this week. Reporters were asking like, how are you going to get your team like fired up for the because they're so chill. And it's so funny to me that a Baker Mayfield led team is like neutralized vibes wise by Liam Cohen and Todd Bowles as a combination. I think that's so funny to me because Baker, we know, is like one of those fired up individuals on the planet. And Todd Bowles was like, well, we have the right people who can like talk a little smack to people behind the scenes. And I was like, I want to see that. Like, I want to be a fly on the wall for that as they prepare for this playoff run.
I was mentioning like watching that Bucs game, and I put it in my write-up, my post-game write-up, that Baker's face just seemed like beet red. He was just on fire, and like he just is. I love his passion, and when he's at the top of his game like he was, like it kind of seems like the team just loves him. He just had a baby. Like he's just in the right place in life right now. So that's Sunday night. Monday night, I feel like we're seeing the Green Bay Packers all the time on prime time, and I don't have a problem with it right now. But the Saints, a bit of a floating corpse, roll into Green Bay on Monday Night Football. Michael, how do we feel about this?
Oh, I like floating corpse. Speaking of the Saints, I actually just looked at the schedule. Mike Evans' last game is against the Saints, and I was like, "Oh, that's great! If he needs the 1,000, Marshawn Lattimore will like dedicate his life to making sure he doesn't get it." And then I forgot he's
not
on
there.
The Commanders now. Yeah, that's a shame because that would be. I guarantee you, Marshawn would not let him get a catch. If the 1,000 was on the line, that'd be great. I was really impressed by the Packers though when I saw them on Sunday night against Seattle. Matt LaFleur was really arrogant in his play calling. I thought that was like enjoyable as a neutral observer. Obviously, Seahawks fans not happy about that. And like an example of what I mean. So the Seahawks, you guys, if anyone's been watching the Seahawks, you notice JSN scores on like, or he gets a lot of like little tunnel screens in the middle of the field. That's kind of his bag. That was literally the Packers' first play of the game. was the tunnel screen that the Seahawks have been running all year. And that's after the Packers won the coin toss and then took the ball on the road to start the game. That's like really ballsy to take the ball and then call your opponent's like go-to play to start the game. It only got a few yards, but I was like, oh, okay. Matt LaFleur is he's in one of those modes. And when they get in one of those modes, they are really, really tough to stop. Like the Saints defense is actually pretty feisty, like top 10 red zone defense. So this won't be like a walk in the park, I don't think, depending on Saints, corpse situation. But like the Packers, I've been skeptical of that whole we don't need a wide receiver one thing. And I still kind of am, but I'm just seeing it week after week that sometimes it just doesn't matter because Matt LaFleur is a badass.
And like Jourdan, you know Matt LaFleur pretty well from all your play callers work. And what's different about him this year? Because I just see I feel like he's just ultra confident, to Mike's point.
Yeah, sometimes people get in a groove. I think actually I don't see enough talk about this, so we're going to talk about it. I think that the offensive line for the Packers has not just done an extraordinary job of really establishing what this team wants to be, particularly this time of year. It's settled their head coach down because he can build whatever he wants out of that offensive line. They're all homegrown, middle round picks, with the exception of one or two guys who sometimes haven't been playing for them. And they are they're so in sync. They have played their own positions the entire year, which is ultra rare to do in the league and so important. And they can build whatever they want in run or pass out of this offensive line. But I think the most important thing that this offensive line has done is they've settled their head coach into a groove, similar to how you see a really good offensive line settle a running back into a groove or settle a quarterback into a groove, which is also happening, by the way, because when they can get their run game going, then Jordan Love gets really efficient, really fast. Otherwise, when you can get pressure on him early, he gets erratic. So the quarterback settles in early. And then the play caller gets into his bag. And Mike, I'm so glad you brought up that tunnel screen. Okay, I know this is not the Seahawks segment. That's fine. Ryan Grubb has gotten his rite of passage welcome to the league. He has been Shanahan'd. He's been treed because all of those guys ran that tunnel screen last week, like that same one. And I asked Sean where he said he stole it. I said, where'd you steal it from? And he said, Seattle, they run it with JSN.
Whoa.
And I was like, I knew it.
Oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it's sick, man. They're all stealing from each other. But that's how you know that Matt LaFleur, to your point, Mark, that is how you know that Matt LaFleur is in his bag right now and in his rhythm as a play caller. I think he really clicks with that DC. They have a history together as well. When Matt LaFleur calls an aggressive game, Jeff Hafley also steps up and calls an aggressive game. And you could see that. I mean, Seattle's offensive line is atrocious. We know that. But they did not let off the gas. They got pressure early and often. They got Geno off his spot. And this is the type of aggressive play calling when balanced by a counterpart as complete as what this offense looks like with its run game, when the quarterback is settled. And when Matt LaFleur is calling the type of game he is, don't challenge anything, Matt LaFleur, because you're 0 for 6 on that. But definitely, all of these things build a completeness that really carries a team into the postseason. And I've been saying this, but I think that the Packers are bona fide contenders in this postseason.
Oh, I think so too. It's very inconvenient for the rest of the NFC to see what they're doing. They've won 4 of 5. The loss was to the Lions by 3 points. And you go in, they are blowing people out and not allowing a lot of points. Like the Jeff Hafley coordinator switch absolutely is working. They're 7th in points per game, 4th in yards per game. They can beat you in so many different ways. So it's you start to feel differently about some of these teams, as the season progresses, obviously. And the Packers, to me, were kind of just there in the first half of the season. And now it's they're there, but they're throwing punches and they're knocking people out. And winning multiple playoff games is not even out of the picture. And with what's happening with Detroit, it kind of feels like two ships in the night going in different directions here. That will be a great one. Maybe not for the Saints, though. So here we go. We're going to move into the games that we cannot wait to watch. Justin, if you're ready for that part of the show. Jourdan, yes.
Mark,
You
I
raised
just
your
want to
hand.
say,
Yeah.
yes, I raised my finger.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job, Mark. I just wanted to
I
say
feel
that.
like Sam Howell at the end of the last Seahawks game right now.
No. You are doing it. You're doing a great job.
We're just directing traffic, but we
I rebuke that one, Mark, as someone who watched Sam in person with these eyes. No. You are doing a better job.
Well,
than that.
I'll take your authority on that. Thank you.
It's It's Mark, take the compliment. My God.
Okay. Well, look who I'm talking to. You and I are no different on that front. It is, yeah. Like there weren't a lot of these games to pick from this week. I think we're in that part of the year, so we included the Saturday slate as eligible contenders. Mike, I know that you picked one of those. Where are we going?
Yeah. Honestly, I didn't even know these games were Saturday at one point.
Isn't that a treat? Like to blow up your entire weekend with the
Mike's
with the
like
NFL?
deep in week 16. Team is scrambling to keep season afloat. Beat writer mode. Like,
Yeah,
can't relate, but
You also did not get into the document until like the 11th hour. I noticed that. And I understand that happens sometimes.
Yeah, I got to cram all my not all my work, but a lot of my pre-podcast work into Wednesday night because of just like child and beat writer duties. But also that reminds me, yeah, Mark, you're right. Generally, there's not a lot of playoff drama, but boy, don't tell the teams that Jourdan and I cover that there's no playoff drama.
Right.
These last three, there are some jobs on the line. Maybe not head coach jobs, but there are jobs for players and coaches on the line, probably in both markets over these next 3 weeks. These are huge 3 weeks for the Seahawks and Rams, who are on like a collision course for the biggest game of the season in Week 18. But anyway, my game that I can't wait to watch that I learned is on Saturday, is the Texans at the Chiefs. I think I picked the Texans last week too against the Dolphins, and I rewatched that game. I watched it live and I rewatched that game last night, and it made me feel really a lot better about the Texans defense. They're like a top 10 defense. Oh, top 5 defense right now. They got a bunch of turnovers. Again, Tua was on a heater, before that game. And then he just looked like the guy Brian Flores thought he was in that game. 4 total turnovers, 3 picks. All of the picks were bad. They weren't like the fluky kind, They were like, well, actually, I guess the last one that ended the game was a great play by number 24 for the Texans. I do know his name. I just don't feel like saying it right now. But a great play by him. But the
you worried
Texans
about something? You worried about
Strong
something?
stance there.
Just gonna leave it out
I
for
love
now.
Sting.
Oh my goodness.
I love Sting.
I do really like Derek
I
Stingley
love
Jr.
Sting.
He
No
was
doubt,
so
no doubt
good.
about it. No doubt about it.
He was so good. He was so good in this game. But it isn't just him. I've been critical of their safeties all year because for a while it was like they all just kind of learned how to play quarters like right there before kickoff, and it just kind of looked like it in game. But they're playing a lot better now. They were confusing the hell out of Tua, and then with their pass rush has been killer. Even without Aziz, like they were fine in the middle. So and then I think the whole team is 13th in turnover margin, or plus 13 in turnover margin, behind only the Bills and Steelers. So like. They're really opportunistic, and you're seeing how they're getting it. It isn't a lot of fluky stuff. It's like we can cover really well. And if that ball is not perfect, you will be screwed. And then to transition that to the Chiefs, like they have guys who get open, but only kind of, sort of, but not really. Like I was watching that Chiefs game, and I was like, oh, I recognize Travis. This is relatable content. That's exactly how I look trying to run routes. Like his hips don't move. He can't make nobody miss no more. I was like, hey man, I feel it. You're just out there vibing, and I think is gonna make this a really, really good matchup. Actually, both defenses are really feisty. The Chiefs' Spags is still very much locked in as a defensive coordinator, and the Chiefs' offense is not like no scrub. But the Texans, it makes me feel really good about them as like a team, as a potential contender. Kind of view them in the same light that I guess the Packers are in the NFC, where it's like when you're cooking, it can work, but you do kind of have some issues. Like I think the Packers is that if you get them to third down, like Jourdan mentioned, Jordan Love is like, that's a mixed bag. He can get real farvy. And then for the Texans, what you might see in this game is CJ's interior O-line might get him killed. And this is the type of game where you could get killed because the other team has number 95 for the Chiefs, whose name I will say very confidently, Chris Jones, who is a game wrecker.
Yeah, you have to set doubles on him like the entire game. If you can set more than a double on him, which I don't think the Texans can, and they don't often use their protections in a way that makes sense anyway. So I don't know what they're going to do for Chris Jones. But where CJ Stroud is in danger on the interior, Pat Mahomes is still in danger on the exterior because DJ Humphries is who they signed to help fix their glaring issues at left tackle that they've had all season, whether due to injury or just insufficient caliber of play. DJ Humphries is not practicing. Now, I think Pat Mahomes is going to try to play. I mean, he has been listed as a practice participant, and he said that this injury was not as bad as the previous one that he suffered. I think it was in the Jacksonville game, a little while ago. I don't remember if it was last year or the year before. Forgive me, listeners, on that. But so it's like, okay, good news, bad news situation. It's a hobbled Patrick Mahomes, who's still Patrick freaking Mahomes, but he has no protection on the outsides of his offensive line, and he's going against a really tough Texans team. I don't know what would you do if you're the Andy Reid, Mark? Would you try to protect this guy from himself, knowing what a lead that they have in general, not necessarily in the AFC, but like in general, they're kind of sitting in a comfortable spot to rest him a little bit.
It's a good question because, he's the son of a former pro baseball player, and I think he's got a special DNA because it's kind of a joke that you don't take it seriously when he gets hurt. I mean, he looked seriously banged up and immobile after that injury last week against Cleveland, but here he is practicing, and I think he sort of just has this unbendable will. And I think if you're Andy Reid, you work with Mahomes. But they've got the weird schedule where they're the team that plays on every day of the week this year except for Tuesday. Now that speaks to the NFL's greed on some level, but I think from another angle, it's they play 5 days later on Christmas, and so is this the spot? I don't love it against Houston, but is the spot where you sit Mahomes or give him rest? I just think he's not going to want to do that. Along with the DJ Humphrey things, I think watching against the Browns too, it's he's walked into, and that sounds not complimentary enough for Mahomes, but he's created some problems for himself walking into some of this pressure. But you are dealing with two tackles that they have him in hot water nonstop. They might get Marquise Brown back for this game. It sounds like that's a possibility. So you suddenly are a team that we didn't know. We thought you have nobody. You've got DeAndre Hopkins and potentially Marquise Brown added to this offense. So I like that a lot. But you are right, Mike, that I thought last week, because we're waiting for CJ Stroud in the offense to awaken. I'm kind of over that mission mentally, but the defense looked really well coached. And I know that you'd been down on their secondary, but Derek Stingley alone can change games. And it's you could see if you have to stick Carson Wentz in there, Derek Stingley could wreak havoc. This might be an opportunity where I'm waiting for the Chiefs to drop one of these games. Is it this one? At this point, I don't know. It might just happen in the playoffs, but Mahomes being in there, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays. I just think that's who he is.
Yeah, I would play him. Selfishly for fantasy purposes, I need.
Sure, that's what they're concerned with. Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Well, I think this is a chance for them though, if they do play him, to get leaned a little bit more into their run game, because I think they had a stretch against the Browns where I think he had 9 incompletions in a row or something like that, and they were up 2 scores in the second half, and it was just throw here, throw there, throw here, throw there, and I was watching it, I was what are you doing, man? You got Pacheco, you got Kareem Hunt, you can run the ball pretty well. Even when he got hurt, I think they threw it on 3rd and 3 and then went for it on 4th and 3. And then he jumps in the air to try to throw it to Juju. And I was did you forget you can run the ball? It's kind of cliche. I feel like running is the answer all the time when a team is struggling on offense. But in that case, I felt it was, particularly because they were up multiple touchdowns on a Browns team that had no interest in winning the game. They were just they find new ways to give the ball to the other team seemingly every week. So if they are going to play Mahomes, this is probably I don't want to say blessing in disguise, but that's kind of what it is. Maybe if Andy's all right, Mahomes isn't magical today, so let's use our other guys. I think that's if they do play him, I think that should be the plan.
And I'm glad that you're on the show, Mike, because it's the game you can't wait to watch. You weren't aware that it was on Saturday. It might have just been Sunday morning, and you would have missed the entire thing. So we're helping you as well. Let's go. Let's move on here. Jourdan, you have a game that you cannot wait to watch, and we cannot wait to hear which one that is.
And my clever and totally intentional manipulation of the document all season means that I get to watch one of my favorite teams to watch, and now I get to watch both of 2 of my favorite teams to watch. The Philadelphia Eagles, number 2 in the Heed the Call power rankings, at the Washington Commanders, number 9. This is, again, my favorite crew, the Davis, Olsen, Pam Oliver crew. Legends. Okay, I've spent a lot of time and a lot of air minutes talking about the schematic evolution of the Philadelphia Eagles on defense. I actually would like to spend some time talking about the potential metaphysical ramifications of the Philadelphia Eagles, because Mark, are you attempting the subtle yet classic undermining move of the late season curse transfer? Because I saw that you were wearing an Eagles sweatshirt on a show, and I feel like you are trying to send that curse for the Cardinals into the transfer portal to another certain bird team that happens to be very hot right now.
I like the theory. I'm going to be completely honest this time around. This Eagles sweatshirt, which was just sent to me before the season, I have no affiliation with the Eagles, was hanging in our bathroom, and I had taken a shower. I was like, I'll just wear that on the show today. So there was no nefarious curse making involved there. Although, if anything, I had Eagles fans who are, they're an interesting group, texting me, or not texting me, they know my number, but like tweeting saying like, yeah, you understand football because you're wearing an Eagles sweatshirt. Like, it's that easy to just, get them back on your side. So I just like to play people against each other. And, I think that it scared Dan and it scared Connor because they've been a little anti-Eagles, that maybe I was supporting them. But then I was like, what if it could be a curse. It could be. And then it's like, that's chess versus checkers. So anyways, the reason I'm rambling is because I don't really have an answer for that question.
One thing I love is that Connor and Dan immediately thought you were trolling them. Like, yes, because they had some truly awful Eagles takes previously this season. So, okay. So about the Eagles in general, I mean, it's probably something that I personally need to dig deeper into therapy, but I'm starting to really, really dig their like self-motivating methods of creating their own relatively small yet briefly seismic problems and then solving them in front of everybody while simultaneously creating new small problems. So, and I earnestly mean that. Like, I am getting such a kick out of that this season because after the NFL world was buzzing about the Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown situation all week last week, they got their passing game off the ground. They looked awesome. Jalen Hurts completed 78% of his passes, threw 2 touchdowns. One was to AJ Brown. They did a nice little friendship dance afterward. And AJ Brown had 110 yards off 8 catches, while simultaneously Clint Hurt is like barricading himself between one of his players and Nick Sirianni. Like, as all that's happening, all the solutions happening, they're creating yet another like very small issue. So I genuinely love the vibe with the Eagles. I feel like they've got so much of that extra like competitive energy. It just has to like spurt out in different directions. And that's kind of what you see with this darkly chaotic, yet schematically very, very sound Eagles team. And on the Commanders side, I mean, this is going to be a fun and dynamic game because it's going to be a challenge for Jaden Daniels against this Vic Fangio defense that has been streaking. Had a little couple ball security issues, but at the same time, like, this defense is always going to be a challenge, especially for a young quarterback trying to navigate some of the structures that they're going to play against him. And a fun Commanders note, Washington did not have kickers Zane Gonzalez or their backup, Greg Joseph, at practice on Wednesday because both kickers' wives were giving birth. So there's like some cool metaphysical universal energy happening between these teams right now. This is going to be a fun game. I can't freaking wait to watch. I
can't think of a NFL moment in time where two kickers both had babies. Well, from different women, obviously, but like in the same week. So that's very strange. But like, you're right. That's a good note. One thing I'm really with you on the Eagles because I know like it's almost cliche to praise Howie Roseman. To me though, it's like this is a team that went from Carson Wentz to Nick Foles to no more Carson Wentz to Jalen Hurts, and they did it pretty smoothly without like a 5-year abyss. They went from Chip Kelly to Doug Peterson, who wins a Super Bowl, and then they don't stick around with him that long when things aren't going right or when there's clashing about what to do with assistant coaches and the direction of the coaching staff. You get Nick Sirianni, he goes to the Super Bowl. They have a bad last half of the year last year. They're now the best team in the NFC, in my opinion, at this moment in time. They seem to operate really well in chaos, and to your point, suddenly they're creating chaos for the opponent. And this was the game where Daniels had the rib injury, and that didn't go so well. I like the idea that he's healthy this time around. What have they learned about Jaden Daniels? What have they learned about the Eagles? And so it's an interesting clash. Mike, is there a team here that you feel is absolutely going to dominate, or is it going to be close?
I think it should be close. This was a game I had to go and rewatch. I didn't get to watch much live. And so my first note when I rewatched it was, in all caps, bullying works. Because so I didn't recognize the sequencing of everything. I was aware of all the drama last week or whatever, but then I saw that the Eagles came out and empty on their first opening drive, and then we're just throwing it.
Throw it, man.
I mean, bullying works sometimes. I know, we had the anti-bully campaigns in middle school and in high school, but you know what? Sometimes it can be effective. It can be effective. Well, yeah, it got bad by the time I was in high school. At my middle school, we had I went to a uniform middle school that was K through 8, and we used to have like a free dress day on Fridays, and then we couldn't anymore because kids were getting bullied for what type of clothes they had on. Like it was a lot of like brand wear shaming. So then they switched it to, all right, you have to wear a uniform on Friday, but you can wear whatever shoes you want. Well, that went the same.
That didn't work out.
Like kids were getting clowned for what type of shoes they had, whether they were real or fake or whatever. So then you had to wear a uniform and black shoes, but they could be whatever black shoes you wanted. And that kind of started to go the same way, but I guess kids ran out of jokes. How many can you have for black shoes? So yeah, that's my Mike bullying childhood story. Anyway, my shoes were fine, by the way. My parents made sure of anything.
Never in doubt.
No doubt.
I had cool shoes, which is why now my closet is full of shoes that cost hundreds of dollars now from childhood. Anyway. But I thought that stood out to me right away when I watched the Eagles game. I was like, oh my goodness. Like they just came out and said, you know what, AJ, here's the ball. But the funny part about it is that's a good strategy, is throwing the ball to AJ a bunch. Like sometimes football is just really simple in that way. And when they're on like that, I have some questions about Jalen Hurts as like a pocket guy, because the design stuff to him doesn't look like super great. I think it only really worked once on a non-tush push thing against the Steelers, but he looked really good. And it really was, it's a dangerous game to play, Philly, because they played it last year too. They were like, all right, Devontae, you complained. So here, the 15, in the first 15, you get 6 passes. All right, Dallas Goedert's complaining now. Well, he gets some action to start the game. Oh, well, now AJ's in the coach's office. Well, we got to feed him the ball. Like you can't really play that game too much, but I thought that was really funny in this game. And so I think that's why the Eagles are going to win, because they can kind of just do whatever they want to you on offense if they so choose. And then Jordan's favorite coordinator, I think, Fangio, just has them really locked in.
That old bastard.
To speak, if this, I guess this is a Howie compliment. I would say Howie. It feels like this is the other note I had in there. It's like Howie Roseman has the type of D-line that Deion Sanders got in trouble for saying he wanted. He just has a lot of like dogs up there, like guys who are just like, man, these are badasses up front. And Jalen Carter has, I think, elevated into that space of like, oh, if you don't have a problem for him, or excuse me, an answer for him, like we were talking about with Chris Jones, you're going to lose. Like he is very, very good. And then if you get good Darius Slay from the Eagles, oh man, you're cooking. But as we've seen this year, like the bad Darius Slay can literally cost you a game. So, but I do like Philly in this one on the road.
Do you worry, or is it like an over dramatic, nonsensical item, the moment where Nick Sirianni is trying to approach Jalen Carter and friends, and the assistant's getting up in his face, and you got Big Dom right behind him, kind of like, do we worry about that, or is that just like, this is just what happens during these games?
I just think it's just who they are at this point. And I guess I don't worry about it because I've seen them handle it, like I've seen it. There's a picture, our friend Zach Berman at PHLLY.com, he shared out a picture of Nick Sirianni, and like Zach is like, if you're going to have like a comedy duo, like he's the straight man, right? Like he had no idea he was sharing out this photo that would be memed instantly. But it was like Nick Sirianni looked like someone who would like help ship you across the river Styx, right? Like he was equally haunted and then doing the haunting, right? Like it was quite a photo. But I'm like, okay, well, yeah, man, the dude's exhausted because in part, some of his own energy creates issues, but then also in part, like he's holding this wildly cool, like really interesting, psychologically interesting, and just very multiple ecosystem together. I mean, there is every personality, but like every football team has this, right? But they're out in the open with it. Like they're living out loud right now with all of the different personalities, from Saquon Barkley saying he doesn't want to break a record because he wants younger players to get the ball late in the game, to other players saying, I want to get the ball, I want it more, and we have to fix our passing game, and we got beef. And like, I like all of it because it's working. If they can understand just how to like steer that energy, just barely, just move that needle just a little bit and channel it all into that functional direction, like there can be success within a little bit of that chaos. And you always hear these stories. I would love to go spend some time there for a while, because you always hear these stories about these ultra elite competitors who build these demons in their own head, that they build their own enemies, they create their own problems, because that gives them something to solve. It gives them motivation to solve these things. I think they're all doing it together, and they're kind of trauma bonding over it. So I think it's lovely. It's wonderful.
I want to share my final note. It's a very quick one from that game. I couldn't think of who Jalen Hurts looked like post game with the hat and the outfit. He looked like Rick Fox, and He Got Game. I can't remember Rick's character's name, but he's the one who took Ray Allen on the visit to the university where he had a really great time and then didn't commit there. But yes, shout out to Jalen. A Rick Fox and He Got Game look-alike. I think his name was Tech. I want us to go with that.
This is where we do Miss Dan's film input on films and TV in general.
Wait, have none of you guys seen He Got Game?
Oh, yeah.
I've seen
way back when.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting, it's a good comp. And like, I love when you're trying to figure out what someone looks like and then it clicks, like that's a good feeling.
Like Mark and Matthew Stafford.
I do not look like Matthew Stafford. I'm not buying that one. Here's a team that got its butt kicked by the Eagles, especially on that last drive, 22 plays just to run the clock out. The Pittsburgh Steelers going to Baltimore. That is my game, and I jumped in the document. Like, I didn't even have to think twice because it was about a month plus ago when I compared this game to like a big old drunk aunt rolling up in a car and like finding some sort of niece or nephew. It was a niece, and they just pull her hair by her hair down on the yard and then just like kicking each other's butts. And they got like children rolling up on bikes and throwing stones and sticks at them and, egging them on. So I think that was apt. That game played out that way. I think it was 18-16 Pittsburgh. And I just never assume that one of these teams is going to automatically just sweep the other. And I think you're going into Baltimore and watching. I covered the Giants-Ravens game, and I get that it's the Giants. I get that. But it doesn't matter who it is. When you play the way that Baltimore did, almost effortlessly perfect. Lamar Jackson, I thought, played one of the most supremely confident and pristine games of his career. He was just in his groove. It's at the right time. I think Lamar Jackson is just driven to kill narratives, kill January narratives, and they really operated in concert. This is still a team, though, and in that game, and I mentioned on Sunday night, I think the defensive penalties are going to kill them at some point. They just come in heaps and bundles, and the Giants made it 14-7 at one point because of a penalty-laden drive by the Ravens defense that just concerned me for like later on. But tactically, I really wonder if you're Pittsburgh, you are looking at the health of your players. And it's obviously TJ Watt. I think we could see TJ Watt on the field. It sounds like that's possible. But what version of it? Also, it's like, I don't think there is anything but one version of TJ Watt. I know he's not having like the greatest season, but he has been the guy that's been able to put clamps on Lamar Jackson and change what Jackson's had to do. So that's absolutely critical. And I don't think so. George Pickens, like Mike or Tomlin will not rule him out, but it's also like he has like a grade 2 hamstring injury. Like, I don't know what version of him you get, but when they've not had him on the field, they've tumbled to 29th in success rate, 30th in offensive EPA, 27th in dropback success rate. That's what we saw against the Eagles. I think they're very different, and it changes Russell Wilson, and it really changes like the world of like Najee Harris, who's not the same guy with it. So the health of the Steelers matters so much. They're actually a game up on Baltimore. This is a massive, massive AFC North contest. This also is happening on Saturday, so tune into that. And there we go. What do you guys think?
It is interesting because with some teams like the Lions who are really banged up, because they already have built in so many different layers to their offense that they could already beat you in multiple ways, and resoundingly so, that some of the injuries you maybe worry a little bit less about. You still worry, but like they still showed they could beat you in different ways. The Steelers, with George Pickens with this soft tissue, the dramatic effect of when he's on the field for Russell Wilson to throw some of the mid-range to deeper passes to versus not is striking, as you noted, Mark, but it is almost shrinking down their offense into a space that Russell Wilson does not want to play in. He wants to unfurl the moon ball. He wants to get the receiver working downfield and at the perimeter, and he wants to have them go up and make these impossible catches that George Pickens does so well. And with the hamstring, because those are the types of concepts that George Pickens is being utilized on, it almost makes you extra worried about the hamstring, because what is the worst thing you could possibly do for a hamstring is stretch the field. Literally, you cannot, you can't move that way when you have a limitation of a soft tissue muscle like that. And so I think that this one player, this one injury has had such a ripple effect on all the things we've liked watching about the Steelers offense and the Renaissance so far, because it literally shrinks down the layers of what they're able to build with this offense, and it puts Russell Wilson into this much tinier, like less workable space where he cannot puncture out of it the way that he had when he had Pickens on the field.
I love Renaissance. That's great.
You thought of that, I think, Mike. Didn't you think of that?
I don't know. If so, wow, I'm great. If not,
I'm great.
It's great. I like that. Either way, Mark, we're on the same. I mean, we're all on the same page. But I had in one of my notes for this game, I applauded Pittsburgh before, but without Pickens, yuck. It's right. Yeah, without Pickens, this offense does not move me. I knew he would matter, but I didn't think, to Jordan's point, he would matter that much. Not to say he's not that good. Actually, I've always liked Pickens. I thought if the Titans were going to trade AJ, he is who they should have taken instead of Treylon Burks. So I was like, he's a good player, but man, he's just like everything for them. When that's problematic. If you need him to be everything, not just because of the talent, but also just like he's very clearly unstable. Like he just might just go like chokehold a DB, on any given play and get thrown out.
It's like a WWE figure. It's awesome.
Yeah, like it's definitely awesome unless you're like a Steelers fan and your season kind of depends on him. And that was my other note going back to our open of the show about the kind of the dramaless aspect. That's true generally for the season, but this game right here, I think this is the season for both teams. So I do think the team that gets the wild card is probably not just going to go on a run to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I really don't think so. I think the team that wins the division has a much greater chance. I'm sure there's some nerds who can crunch some numbers and give us the odds of each team doing that, winning the Super Bowl versus winning or losing this game. But I will just confidently say, with no numbers, the team that loses this game is cooked. But they're not going to win the Super Bowl, And I think that makes this game massive. Arguably, looking at the slate, probably the biggest game of the schedule. I would say Week 16, because then it's got both quarterbacks. Like there's a lot on the line there, and like both coaches are really like, man, I need to get back to the big joint, like the Super Bowl. I mean, like it feels like there's so much on the line in this particular game. And then my final note, I think Mark, you mentioned this too. I just have Ravens got to beat these guys eventually, right? Right. Like it feels like they eventually just got to beat them. I don't have a ton of rhyme or reason other than I kind of think they might be better without Pickens. But I just feel like the Ravens got to beat these dudes at some point.
Yeah, it's been like there's been these seasons where Lamar was injured at the end of the year, and some of those games went that way because of that. But you're right. Like if Pittsburgh were to sweep Baltimore, lights out. Like I think Pittsburgh, even more than Baltimore, needs to have home playoff games because that's a completely rowdy, impossible atmosphere. We are going to go take a little bit of a break, and during these breaks, we really enjoy ourselves. A lot happens during these breaks, Justin. You know that. So we'll be back in a minute. Are you playing an Underdog yet? Maybe you don't love the idea of building a pick'em entry. That's okay, because Underdog also has streaks. Enter for as little as $1, get a nice streak going, one pick at a time, and you can win as much as 1,000 times your entry. Or, if you built up a streak and don't want to risk it anymore, you can cash out your streak anytime. So download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash for our U.S. audience only. Okay, we are back in action, and we're going to go to that place that we go to on these wonderful Thursdays. It's a wet place. It's moist. It has scents. Justin, let's go to the gravy boat.
Whoa, 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 whoa!
Ah!
Justin's so nice. He gives me a thumbs up when it's safe to put my headphones back in, even though I am wounding him every time I rip my headphones out. That is what a nice human Justin is.
Oh, it's nothing. All right, let's get going. Giants at Falcons. It's Michael Penix time, baby. Raheem Morris finally admits, in a sense at least, that Kirk Cousins can't really move and therefore cannot run the offense at a functional level. And the Falcons need to win some football games down the stretch to have a shot at the postseason still. Now, interesting, this Giants defense has actually been pretty good in the passing game, last week when they got shredded, notwithstanding. So this will be an interesting first start opportunity for the rookie.
Yeah, I feel like I'm suddenly intrigued by the Falcons after months of feeling that they were an absolute snooze fest. Jourdan, how do you feel about the move?
Yeah, well, it's multiple things being true, right? It's the right move, and it is also so logistically difficult. I talked about this at a higher volume last week because it is so non-ideal when you are not getting reps in practice as a backup quarterback. That's just how it works, guys. And when like you are game planning week over week with the margins of your season like on the line, literally on the line, and so thin every week, it is extremely unideal that now is the time that you make that change. I think Mike Tomlin provided a great blueprint, and one of Raheem Morris's good friends and mentors provided a great blueprint on when you're supposed to make this change, like not when everything is so razor thin. But Kirk Cousins' play, it was inexcusable. You can't keep him on the field. So that's also a truth. So they're just going to have to deal with it. I think one thing that the Falcons have a slight advantage, or at least a past precedent to lean on, was getting Baker Mayfield ready. Zach Robinson got Baker Mayfield ready for a Thursday night football game. When Baker Mayfield landed in Los Angeles in 2022 on a Tuesday, they got him ready and to go kick the shit out of the Raiders on Thursday night football. And like this is going to be so tough for this staff to do. And it puts an enormous amount of weight on Michael Penix's shoulders. But as someone who, got to cover him and talk to him quite a bit for a couple quarterback related stories I did before the draft and through the summer, and left-handed quarterbacks rule, by the way. He is so calm. He is so composed. This is not too big for him. Now, there's a lot that could go sideways and still might, but in terms of who he is as a person, this is not too big for him. And further, forgive me, one of my theories here is that they knew Kirk would hit a wall, but there was no way of knowing when that wall would happen. The contract is still inexcusable, right? It is. It gets a little bit better after this year. But in terms of the timeline of events of all of this happening and adding Penix, which I think around the NFL, you guys were a fan of the move, which I thought was the correct take at the time, right? Because you knew that a wall was coming for Kirk after that injury and plus his age. They just didn't know when, so they had to be ready for the win. I don't think anybody expected it to happen this abruptly and this much into a crater, because he's always been streaky, but this is a crater. And they were ready for it. So it's a lot of things are true at the same time. I'm excited to see Mike Penix go out and sling the ball around. Yeah,
I think I appreciate the boldness of the move, and we all saw Kirk Cousins. It happened in the right spot where it was like, in an island situation where his body's broken. So you have to do it. But Mike, I was trying to think of situations where a team that could still make the playoffs, like they're very in that division, it's viable, they're around, like to make a quarterback switch to a rookie this late in the year. It's it's not like Colin Kaepernick that started off of an injury and they wanted to play him. It's like that happened at a different time in the year. It's like, this is pretty unknown, pretty unprecedented.
Yeah, it is. It's necessary. I really liked. I almost felt proud of Raheem, because I saw Cousins live in week 7, and I remember on my podcast, me and my co-hosts were like, "Oh, that dude, he can't move better than me and you." Me and my co-host Chris. And so when Raheem finally, to Justin's point in the intro, kind of acknowledged what we've all been seeing, it kind of felt like that old person in your family who finally acknowledges they shouldn't drive anymore. Like, all right, here's my keys. You guys are right. Like my grandmother just got to that point. I wouldn't say like a couple years ago. I think during COVID at some point she was just like, you know what? I don't need to drive that car anymore. I'm old. That's pretty much Kirk. Kirk had to get the keys taken from him, which is probably something people listening can relate to. Sometimes you have to take the keys from grandma or grandpa or uncle or aunt, or maybe the aunts that were slapboxing each other in Mark's Pittsburgh Ravens preview.
No, they shouldn't be driving. They're never sober.
Yeah, exactly. That was Kirk. That was Kirk, and I don't even know if this will work. Really, I never liked the pay Kirk that much money and then draft Penix that high. I just thought it was a lose-lose. I've always kind of thought that. I thought either you pay too much for Kirk and he's not good enough, or you drafted Penix super high and you can't even use him. And I thought that was too much of a luxury for a Falcons roster that at the time had no defenders, which is why they then since had to go trade for Jourdan, go get one of their safeties, and they still stink on defense. So, but yeah, credit to Raheem for finally taking grandma's keys because it was probably a couple weeks overdue.
Yeah, then we've got Justin who wants to put like Joe Biden on a motorcycle, like on edibles. Anyways, next game, Justin.
Okay. Cardinals at Panthers. It's almost like the NFL schedulers are testing the power of Marc's voodoo curse. Last week, they gave the Cardinals the Patriots. Okay, we found out. The curse is not quite strong enough to overpower a team that bad. But what about the Panthers? Can the curse lift them up enough to beat Arizona? An actual football note for this game, the Panthers linebackers are extremely banged up. 2 more guys headed to IR this week. James Conner is going to go off in this game. If you got him in the fantasy playoffs, congrats. If you're playing against him, I'm sorry.
I think that the curse is on hold, you're right, because of the schedule. And I said as much on Sunday night that, like, curses don't hold up against the 2024 New England Patriots, Christian Gonzalez notwithstanding. Here we go. I think what happened to the Panthers a week ago, that kind of shook up the Panthers comeback narrative a little bit in terms of like the quarterback being rock solid now and everything around him. They really are depleted on defense too. So I think if Arizona this time of year, you want to be physical, you want to smash people with the run. We saw that last week. James Conner is playing at a completely awesome level. To me, it's like they did that without even really getting Marvin Harrison involved. He had a couple drops in the end zone that could have changed his stat line last week, but they're able to win certain games without everyone needing to be at the highest level. I think they take care of business. They'd be 8-7, and then they'd have the Rams and the 49ers, 2 massive games for both the Rams there and the Cardinals. Like, they're alive in the sense of, like, if they can get out of their own way. That's been the story for them. Get out of your own way. It's a softer schedule than some, so we will see. And that's my news preview on that. We'll go to the next game right now, Justin.
Nice one, Marc.
News preview. Where was I born?
Lions at Bears. Now, Dan Campbell said on a radio appearance that we played on this show earlier in the week that the slew of injuries they've suffered is exactly what they needed. I'd argue that playing this version of the Chicago Bears is exactly what the Lions need to stay in the lead for the first round bye.
How are we feeling, Jourdan?
Yeah, I mean, you got to feel for the Bears at this point, right? Because what else can they do? They're sort of just hamstrung at this point. And you would think that, like, right now, because they've made the moves that they did and they're putting together probably their candidate lists, and you're starting to hear rumors, even Troy Aikman floating, the possibility of trading for a head coach. Now, I will say, like, I don't hate that idea for the Bears. And I don't hate it because this is considered by people who are experts on these things and all the whisper conjurers of the world, and Connor Orr, who is quite indeed a bona fide expert on this topic, that this is a really thin coaching candidate pool. And so it's almost like the Bears are either going to maybe take a chance on somebody who is a year away and have them grow in. Hey, Dan, and grow into a role. But the problem is you are multiple years, at least 2 years behind all of the other high caliber coaches in the NFC North, and even more in some cases. And so why not actually swing for the fence and go try to trade for a high caliber, experienced, proven coach, Kevin Stefanski, and actually, like, kind of try to keep pace with these people who are just, like, kicking the crap out of you just as an organization and in terms of their organizational functionality, and are lapping you at this point. Like, why not make a move like that? Why not take a swing like that? And I could see it on the other side. I could see, like, Liam Cohen getting a call from the Chicago Bears, for example, because they want someone to come in on offense. But if you're going to be an organization that's serious about, like, actually having us talk about the game when we talk about the Lions versus the Bears game, and actually have this be a fun matchup to think about and to watch instead of maybe just like a steamroll situation, like, you have to make that big move. You have to take a swing for a proven commodity such as a proven head coach. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did it.
Well, I wonder, like, the Bears ownership has they don't strike me as like a team that really can even pull a move here and get a big guy like that. Or I don't know what you'd even trade for a Kevin Stefanski at this point, but it is interesting. It's time for the Bears to go do something they've never done, and don't get the third or fourth guy on the list. And it is time for that. I have no trust in that organization to do it. Justin.
All right, we didn't really talk about Bears Lions there, but yes, good stuff on the Bears. Next game.
I'll own that because what else can we say about the Bears at this point, honestly?
Yeah, the Lions have to win this game, banged up or not. They're almost 7-point favorites. Like, just go beat your division rival. And don't do what you did last year where you almost got beat and then did get beat by this Bears team.
Yeah,
okay.
And Dan Campbell said, win with your special teams, win ugly. He's going to smile if they win. So, to your point, sorry, listeners, when maybe next year these games will be more competitive with the Bears. So.
Next game, Titans at Colts. You can say a lot of things about the Titans. You can say they suck. They do. That they're a bad team. They're non-competitive. But you better not call them soft, or Brian Callahan will get emotional about it. Anyway, Mason Rudolph starting here. Will Levis benched probably for his career, definitely this season, against Anthony Richardson. Who's excited for this game?
Well, I want to ask you, Mike, like with the Anthony Richardson thing, like is this kind of a trial for what happens in this offseason? Like, do you automatically just go back to him after what we've seen? This is one of the most erratic, accuracy-averse quarterbacks I've watched. Athletic gifts aside.
Yeah, it's kind of been interesting also how he's kind of been, how the coverage has been over there in Indy. Just kind of all seems like he's getting a lot of benefit of the doubt for like some of the worst stat lines I've ever seen. One of my homies joked that his stat lines would be looking like tour dates. You know, it's like they look really bad. You know, like it would like be 11 of 20 or something like that, or like 11 of 30. I forget what he was. This was like 17 of something. I think really bad. You know, it's just hard for me to give the benefit of the doubt to a guy completing 40-something% of his passes or whatever. It can't just be drops. It can't just be the coordinator. It can't just be everyone else when you're that bad. But yes, I think what would give me some reason for optimism is I think between his last college season and his rookie season, I forget who he worked with, but his footwork was a lot better going into his rookie year. I remember, like, I was thinking, oh, okay, he looked good. I think in their first game, I forget who it was, the Jags maybe. I was like, oh, he looks all right. He's, like, accurate. And then something happened with this last offseason in the shoulder. Maybe he regressed. I'm not sure. But now he just doesn't look like he knows his feet are supposed to point towards who you're throwing to. You know, it just makes it really hard. But it seems like that could be fixable. We've seen some guys fix their foot stuff. Jourdan, what's the QB thing that they do? The
biomechanics.
Bang.
Yes.
AR, call them. Please do that.
He works with them. He just couldn't last year because he was recovering from a shoulder injury. So I would like to see him get a full off season of this type of work because it is proven to be effective. Now, this is a dramatic project to undertake, right? More dramatic perhaps than some of even the worst Josh Allen mess that we saw early in his career, because he also went to these same people to become a more efficient, biomechanically sound thrower. So we'll see. I'd like to see him get a full off season of all of this type of training and then come back next year and see how he looks.
And Justin, quickly on the Titans. I mean, I think most of American civilization is ready to see them float away into the offseason at this point, but their coach spoke. What's the state of Callahan at this point?
All right. Callahan was asked about some people calling the Titans soft in the media. What is his response to hearing that his team may have been called soft?
I mean, you really want to get me going today? Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, I think it's complete and total bullshit, if you want my honest opinion. These guys are tough fuckers, man. They go after it every day. They play hard as hell. And there's at no point have we ever put on tape at any point this season that this is a soft football team. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around how that would even be a conversation. I mean, just because we don't win games doesn't mean we're soft. These guys play their ass off. They play hard. They play physical. You can ask any team that plays against us that when they come off the field, they know they played us. Yeah, that makes me relatively angry that would be some presumption. That means you just don't watch the shit. You know, you don't do anything about it. That you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're looking at. So I won't stand for. I'm not going to stand for anybody calling his football team soft. I think that's bullshit. So if there's opinions out there that feel that way, then they don't know anything about NFL football. So I'd like you to walk in there and call one of these guys soft and see what happens. You know, this is not a soft football team at all, mentally or physically.
Going.
And I think one of the things mentally that's really been impressive about the team is that the way that they keep fighting through the way that this season has gone. They've not shown at any point that they're not up to the task. They come out every day and work. They have. I mean, I'm a really
Don't
really
cry,
get me
Brian.
going now. I mean, it's
Buddy.
Still
these
talking.
guys come out here and they do everything possible to win games. And if there's any assumption anywhere that's outside of this building, again, we don't focus on all those things, but there's no possible explanation to say that this team is soft any way, shape, or form, mentally or physically. And the way that they go about their work it's insulting.
You got to hear the last
to me,
comment.
to
I mean,
them,
do we? Okay.
to
Clearly.
everyone that works here. So I'm not that no chance ever in hell would I ever admit that to be the case, and neither would anybody in this locker room. So you can kind of shove that one right up your ass, to be honest. So.
I mean, Justin, first of all, if you're watching this on
which Dan has
YouTube,
done.
yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, while he's going on one of the longest soliloquies
Stick it up
we've
the
ever had
guy's
up by a
ass,
coach
which
on the show,
I've done.
there's these nice little Christmas lights over him too. So it's a very cute scene. But I think we needed that from Callahan, from Brian Callahan, didn't we, Justin?
We did, but my response to this is your team is mentally soft. Your team beat Houston to move to 3-8 on the season, and then came out and got waxed the next week and said, "Oh, I think we were hungover from success." You were hungover from success as a 3-8 football team. That's not success. So they are mentally soft. Sorry,
Stay
Brian.
sober.
Dan,
Let's
I'll
counterpoint
stick that
from
up my
Justin
ass.
Graver. I know we have to move, but I have to ask you guys this one question. Have you guys, I was recently taught a new term by my friends at the Saints Block Party podcast. Have you guys heard of the term hatfished?
Hatfished
No.
or catfished? Hatfished?
Hatfished.
No.
Like someone looks a certain way in a hat, and then they take the hat off, and
Completely
you're
different
like,
without.
"Whoa!"
Right.
That is what I could not stop thinking of as that man was talking.
Okay.
I can
That's
see
fair.
that. I agree with that.
I've experienced that with people with sunglasses more than hats. Like sometimes I've only known someone, or I just associate them with sunglasses, and then I see them without them, and I'm like, oh, that's what you look like.
Or clothing in
Glass
general.
fished.
Glass? Yeah, I was thinking glass fished. Maybe, I don't know. It sounds like a bar.
And I can say that because I am a hat fisher. So,
You have the
All
right.
right. Next game. Rams at Jets. The Rams are on a roll, winners of 3 straight and 4 of their last 5. The Jets just snapped a 4-game losing streak. The Aaron Rodgers documentary is out. He's doing ayahuasca in the forest. And apparently, Woody Johnson uses Madden ratings to evaluate NFL players.
Yeah, well, there's a pretty interesting athletic piece out right now where the headline simply says, Woody Johnson's Jets, it's the most dysfunctional place imaginable. Right now, Dan, at a children's concert, you can tell his ears are buzzing. He doesn't like this conversation. But, I mean, the Jets side of it aside, like, Jourdan, the Rams, like, absolutely massive game for them. They all are, but it's like you've got to go take care of business on the road.
yeah, true. And also, I'm concerned for on the Ram side of things. It's a really long trip. It is going to be very cold. It is a hard turf, bad playing surface. I know they changed it out at MetLife a little while ago, but still a bad playing surface and a very hard turf. Hard on players' bodies. They've got a couple old guys on this team that absolutely, it's crucial that they play well down the stretch. So this is sneakily dangerous for the Rams, in my opinion. The Jets are also playing, like, all the outside chaos aside, and you guys got to go read that report at The Athletic. Zach Rosenblatt, Diana Rossini, and Mike Silver collaborated on it, and it is wild. Some of the stuff that dude reportedly is doing, like letting his kids and their friends into the locker room and then disparaging players as guests in that is a sacred place, and a lot of people work really hard to earn the right to be in there and to respect the environment, and that sucks. And so I'm like, this is crazy. But aside from
Jourdan,
all
where do you
those
think they're going to
things-
rank? What kind of rating do you think they're going to get on that poll they do every year about how much you like playing for the team that you're playing for?
Oh, the NFLPA
Brutal.
poll?
Yeah.
The NFLPA poll? I mean, this is something that the NFLPA, I mean, where the hell are they in all of this? Like they're trying to get, move camera and all that stuff. And that's fair to do. But like, where are they on this type of thing too? Anyway, I could go on forever on this. But
yeah.
well, to the point, the Jets are playing well. That's the thing. They're actually playing like solid football right now. And that's kind of getting buried under all of this chaotic mess, whether it's, Rodgers on TV, like smack talking people who are criticizing his takes and it's like a take war back and forth, or it's like Woody Johnson mess, or it's, hey, they're going to interview John Robinson, or, oh, they're Mike Tannenbaum is running their GM search. Like, it's all this noise around them. And very, very quietly, they're actually playing good football. So this could be a dangerous spot for the Rams.
I will, before we move on, there was a tweet from Dan, just for fair and balanced reporting. He wrote, Woody Johnson is a goddamn moron. I'm so happy I'm allowed to actually say that now. Justin, next game.
All right, next game. Also, if the Jets hire John Robinson, Garrett Wilson will probably get his wish of being traded away because that's what John Robinson does to star receivers that are used. Okay,
Titans
next
throwback.
next game. Browns at Bengals. Another QB change. This is our third of the week. Jameis Winston has been benched for Dorian Thompson-Robinson because the Browns are desperate for anything to go right. Also a desperate team, the Cincinnati Bengals, whose playoff hopes have hung in the balance in basically every game they've played since October.
Mike, you mentioned it, that Cleveland begged to give away that game last week. I don't like the situation for them or what this offseason might look like for them in general, but of these two franchises, who has the chance to steal this game? I think I know the answer.
Yeah, probably the Bengals. I do like we got to this game right after the Jets discourse because Jerry Jeudy had a funny tweet in response to that Jets article because his Madden rating was the one in question in the opening of the story, and he tweeted and said, "I blame Ocho Cinco," who of course does the thing with Madden where he bumps guys' ratings up. I thought that was kind of funny. Jeudy also has to probably be really, really upset about this quarterback change because was probably the only person benefiting from Jameis starting. Like right. Jerry Jeudy went from like, he's just a guy, to quote Steve Smith, to like, oh, you should probably be in the Pro Bowl, crack 1,000 yards, going off every week. I think he had like 100 yards last week in that game against the Chiefs. He was going off. This went from like, oh, this could be fun to unwatchable when they decided to go with DTR. But I do appreciate with Raheem, although not to the same extent with Brian Callahan, with Kevin Stefanski, eventually throwing the ball to the other team is just, you just can't tolerate that shit no more, man. Like sometimes you can do that.
Hey!
Like, damn,
look at this.
Back from the child fair.
Just as we wrapped up talking about the Jets.
Yeah, perfect.
How did it go, Dan?
Sorry,
how did it go?
Mike.
How did it
No,
go?
it's okay.
First
I
of
want to hear
all,
about the child fair.
did you guys just finish talking about the Jets for real?
But we want
we're
to
in the
hear from
gravy.
you about
Can
it.
I just say something that I was not allowed to say for 13 years?
We already
with the
read
NFL?
your tweet. We already read the tweet. Yeah, we did.
Okay,
We
so
covered
let me
it.
now speak it into a microphone. Woody Johnson is a fucking idiot. I've always thought this. Couldn't say it. He came after our podcast a couple of months back.
That's right.
And he is the biggest fool. And the Jets will never, ever compete for a Super Bowl while that jackass and his progeny is involved with this show. Our show, their show, any show. He is a fail son of the highest order and a disgrace to the New York Jets. Now, it was a great concert.
Seamless.
The concert was enjoyable, cute. Some of the songs for ostensibly a holiday concert, it's like winter cold, unspecified celebration lights. I don't know. Listen, I thought Mark went a little bit hard with his blistering op-ed in the latest edition of I Dream in Red about bringing Christmas and keeping Christ in Christmas and all that. But
I did not. That is in it.
That's the newsletter
not
about
accurate,
the inauguration upcoming, right?
just
I thought you went a little hard in the paint on that, Mark. But it was very nice.
It's if anyone actually were to take the time to read that newsletter, they are going to be stunned with your reporting on it because it couldn't be farther away from accuracy.
Anyway, don't mind me. Just go back to, and I'll figure out. I'll find my way into the show.
We've got a couple more in the gravy world, and then we have your game too.
How is Justin? How is Mark doing as the pilot here?
I'd say Mark's doing an excellent job. He's been keeping us on pace. We did breeze right over 3 sound clips we had prepped that now would feel weird to go back and play. So we missed those, but that's okay.
That's okay. That's okay.
As long as we got the Brian Callahan in one, that was probably the best of all of the.
Oh, so you're telling me
sound.
that the Titan sound clip that got into the show?
We
Don't worry.
we found a way to
20
discuss the
minutes- it was
Titans
20
longer than
minutes
any other
long.
team again. So.
Yeah, no, I made sure the 2-minute Brian Callahan clip got in the show, but we did miss
Oh.
Kyler Murray talking about the weather and Michael Penix talking about hot dogs at Costco. unfortunately.
Dan, I need to ask you. I need to ask you this question. Dan, do you know what the term hat fishing is? Hat fished?
I've never heard the term hat fished. No.
Okay, it is when somebody, present company excluded, is wearing a hat and they look good in the hat, and then they take the hat off, and you're like, holy fucking shit.
Ooh,
It's typically worse. Yeah.
Oh, like a catfish. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that.
Okay. Just checking for no specific
Is
reason.
someone saying that you're hat fishing right now, or what is the?
No, nobody's saying that, nor implying it.
It was Brian Callahan.
There's only one person I see potentially in a hat fish scenario right now.
You guys like my new hat?
I do like it.
Yeah.
You're always
favorable.
repping the Athletic, and I'm sure the company's very happy about that.
All right, next game, Jaguars and Raiders.
Let's get Jourdan an underdog winter cap.
We should. Maybe it'll be a lucky Rams Super Bowl cap if she wears it on Christmas Day.
Send it to her editor.
Deep
All right,
cut.
let's do it.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry I missed the watch yesterday too. Anyway, so I'm derailing
Great
the
watch.
show more than it needs to be. Sorry.
It's on tape. You can
Excellent
watch
watch.
it.
And Mike, what did Mark refer to a school Christmas concert or holiday concert as, or winter sing?
The child fair.
Such an
Look, I didn't
alien
know-
response, like what do the humans call?
I did
a
not know what
child
type
school
of-
concert.
I didn't know what type of youth event it was, so that seemed pretty broad, you know.
All right, on with the show.
All right, on with the show. Next game, Jaguars at Raiders. Ugh, you want to know what it's like being in that Saints locker room? Watch this game. That's all I got. Jags, Raiders, give me a break.
It's kind of
You're
hard to
back
jump
on
into
the, you're
the
back
show.
in the saddle, Dan, here to toss these out to the crew.
Oh, right. What's the game again?
Jags, Raiders.
Jags Raiders. Oh, what a nightmare. What a nightmare. Although I will say, as someone whose team got to play the Jaguars last week, as Connor and I, just had a ball watching this game because Mac Jones is such a little shit. There's entertainment value to any Jaguars game that actually, to me, supersedes watching the former number one overall pick, Trevor Lawrence, watching Mac Jones do like gritty type dances and be legitimately like a Steve DeBerg level athlete in the modern NFL. It's just a fun thing to watch.
Steve DeBerg.
He's the Bergian.
All right, 49ers at Dolphins.
Is this
Now,
how the
this
show
matchup-
goes now? We actually don't talk about the games. You guys have changed.
No, we've been doing like one person talks per gravy boat game, so
Okay.
we can move things along
Okay,
here.
We're at the very end of the boat, so
gotcha.
Yeah.
Getting
We got
close.
2 games left. Okay, 49ers at Dolphins. This matchup is actually interesting to me because if I told you in September that these two teams would meet in late December and both of them would be 2 games under 500, what would you say to that? It's crazy how our perception of a team changes so much in just a few months.
Absolutely. And I thought it was, I got to give Tyreek Hill some credit. Can you fly up the Tyreek tweet? I've never seen Tyreek Hill as like a guy that could like turn your brain into a pretzel with his words. But his tweet, and he's having a down year. And Mark, we're going to be on Sky Sports this weekend again, and the topic we're going to discuss is, players who are in kind of a big spot with 3 games to go in the regular season. I'm wondering about Tyreek Hill's future and if he ends up being a top guy that ends up on a different team next year. And his tweet here, "It's time for me to go, coach." And Jourdan, this could be read 3 different ways. It could mean it's time for me to go coach, like he's going to retire and go like the Mike Vick route or whatever.
I doubt that.
Or it's time for me to go coach, like it's time to go. Feed me the rock. Let me be the guy that I've always been, even though I haven't been this year. Or it's time for me to go coach. Like, get me out of here. I don't want to be on the team anymore. Here was Mike McDaniel, how he was asked to discuss this tweet by his star wide receiver.
So yeah, I know that he tweeted something because of my outstanding prep, but
Oh my God.
otherwise I wouldn't.
I'm losing
I
patience for this
think,
guy by the day, by the way.
I guess I read it as he's talking about coaching. There's not a comma, but probably when he's typing his comma. I don't know. He's in great spirits and walkthrough. So Maybe he just wanted you to ask me in my press conference. But there's you'll have to ask him exactly what he meant. But I think it would have made more sense if he would have said "sir," because that's what he usually calls me.
Mike,
All right, Jourdan, your thoughts on the whole
comment
situation?
issues.
Yeah, he was looking at his PR director, Ann Nolan. She's pretty great. She's dealt with a lot over there
Good
this
job,
year.
Jourdan.
But so the I read it as like he's ready to go off. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing because when I was out there for a while last year doing a project on that motion that everyone was stealing from them, and Tyreek is just he likes to have fun. He's a unique guy. He sort of just says what he thinks. He's got great energy in that way. When I saw it, I didn't even think twice of it. And maybe it's just because I'm naive or I'm just not, paying enough close attention to the vibes around the Dolphins right now because they kind of are like floating away into the sunset. But I think I'm more concerned about what the structure of that coaching staff and front office is going to look like next year. But to me, it felt like, he's going against the 49ers. This is Kyle Shanahan. Like, this is Mike's old boss. Like, I kind of read it as like, it's time for him to go off. Like, he feels like he's ready to go off, but maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And by the way, those of us in the fantasy world, the Isaac Orendo is going to secretly win my league camp. He had the knee injury at the end of the first game, and then now he has a hamstring injury, and it looks like he's not going to play. So the curse of the San Francisco running backs continues unabated. So obviously both teams are on life support. The team that loses, Mark, we could say bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm already saying bye-bye to both of them.
Yeah.
At this moment.
It doesn't feel like it's the year for the Niners.
And Dan, I should note that I spent all of my psychoanalysis powers on the Eagles today. So
Oh, you did? Okay, I'm looking forward to hearing that. That's good.
I cannot wait for Dan to listen to this. I know that I will be in the crosshairs at some point for some aspect of what went
Why?
down
What
here.
did you
But
do?
I think it was
the
well,
drunk
it's probably
ants were
more
back.
what I didn't do, but it's like but I would say in general, like it's been a workmanlike effort and thanks to Jourdan and Mike, we're where we are.
You will get a
Listen,
Justin
Dan,
too.
Mark has done a great job. I would like to see all of your notes, but
Yeah.
Mark has done an awesome job.
Mark will get a strongly worded email if I feel that he didn't live up to it. But I have no doubts. I think if anything on the old show, I used to be like, if I'm missing a show, I want Sestog leading it. You never got the chance, and this for me. This is can't miss podcast. I can't wait till this thing goes live because I got.
Well, just keep the expectations at a
bro.
lower place.
Up here.
Okay.
Up
No.
here. And if they're down here,
Down here.
strongly worded email with bullet points.
Shit.
What a monster. All right, let's go. Keep moving.
All right, last game in the gravy boat before we get to Dan's game we can't wait to watch.
Oh, you did that? Is that how we played it? I didn't really
we
even
just-
care about
I don't
that
have
game.
anything prepped for
Okay.
for that game, so we just waited to hoping you would join before we got through.
All right.
All right, Patriots at Bills. The Bills have scored 30 or more points in 8 straight games, tying the longest streak in NFL history. They are going to break that record and extend their streak to 9 games against New England on Sunday.
Mike, that sounds fair. That's a lot of wood, 14 points, but the Bills at home with Allen playing at the highest level we've ever seen him. This does feel like the only fear, at least if you're in your fantasy semifinals or whatever, is that they don't even have him in the game midway through the third quarter because it could be that grisly, right?
Well, I mean, I don't think the Bills work like that. I feel like they like
true.
the idea. I think Sean McDermott for sure has Josh Allen on his fantasy team because they just have that dude do everything. I'm only in the semis in one of my leagues because I could withstand my opponent having Josh, Khalil Shakir, and Kyron Williams in that game a couple weeks ago. Jesus. Anyway, this was actually this game was gonna be what I didn't use this prediction, but I don't think we've had a shutout this season. I don't believe. Yeah, I don't think so. Me and Justin can maybe look at that, but I don't think we have. I was going to predict that this week, and this was the game I had in mind because the Bills they're just rolling right now. But I do like Drake May enough to respect him. I think this won't be in my money Mike picks, but I do like the Patriots plus 14 because, as you guys know, when there's a spread that big, unless it involves the Lions, I'm willing to take the dog in that. But yeah, this could get ugly.
That's fair. I wonder, Jourdan, do you get the vibe that the coaching staff in New England should have head on a swivel these last 3 games, and it would behoove them not to get blown out repeatedly after the Jonathan Kraft luxury suite incident last weekend?
Yeah, I think, they already sort of were open and committed to the fact that Gerard Mayo is going to be learning as he goes on this. They already made it very clear that they saw in him the qualities to develop into, their future and their long-term future as a coach. So I do think that they get more time together. I also think it's important to remember that the GM structure and the front office and executive structure did not come to fruition until very late in what the league calendar normally is. And so you're sort of behind on all kinds of different things that go into behind the scenes of roster building and getting a language installed for your draft process and your pro personnel process and those types of things. So developing synchronicity is the first step, in my opinion. And then, okay, maybe we don't put our foot in our mouth so many times throughout the course of a season. And maybe we figure out what we want to do about the OC if we don't like him anymore. Nice stable guy for Drake May to have early on in his career. But if you want someone with a little more pop to him, maybe you decide that. And then, get your situational football handled, get your coaching handled, figure out your fundamentals and what you want to be and how you want to be that thing. And go do it. And I think that that's what you're going to see as an impetus on that group as a whole over the coming months.
All right, there we go. Let's hop out of the gravy boat, and we'll take a quick break. We'll hit the game I can't wait to watch. I'm so excited to watch this game that we put it on hold, and we're going to have to circle back. So we're going to hit that, and then our fearless predictions, a little Money Mike. Stay right there. You may have heard by now that Heed the Call with Dan Hanzus and Marc Sessler is on Underdog, so why not start playing on Underdog today? There are NFL and college football discounts dropping every week, so don't miss out. Download and play on the Underdog app, sign up with the code HTC, and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make the most of this NFL season by playing along on Underdog for our U.S. audience only. All right, we're back. Hey-o. I am here. The winter child gathering meeting, as Mark called it, is wrapped.
You have a real pep in your step. I have noticed that. I think
it's fiction.
Yeah.
The little humans gather to sing for the adults. Perfect time for attack. The game, I cannot wait.
I don't think that at all.
I cannot wait. I mean, I literally cannot wait to watch the number 5 Minnesota Vikings traveling to Seattle to face the number 15 Seahawks. I can't, Mike, I can't get a handle on the Seahawks. Like, should we believe in the Seahawks? Should we totally disregard the Seahawks? They're, to me, the prototypical, for me, Twilight Zone team. When we do power rankings, stick them at 13 and just forget about it because I don't know what to make of them, because depending on what week we're talking about them, sometimes it's like, oh, Mike McDonald, he's figured this thing out on defense and they got all these parts on offense. And then you get to the weeks like this where it's like, I mean, is the defense that great? Like, is Geno Smith even the quarterback of the future of this team? Like, where are we at with the Seahawks right now with Houston coming to town?
I do think that they are kind of weird. They're appropriately ranked in the Heed the Call power rankings of record. 15 is about right. They're just kind of average. The defense I do think is really good. They only gave up, I think, 10 points in that second half, and one of those was when the Packers started in their territory because Sam Howell just is not very good. Mike McDonald, he actually is really good at adjusting in game, figured some stuff out. He just started off poorly because Matt LaFleur has been doing this for a while. Matt LaFleur is a really good coordinator, really handsome guy, and sometimes, he can hand your coach an L. I think those two things work hand in hand when he does that. The real concern and why the Seahawks are 15th, I would imagine, is their offense. It's just Jekyll and Hyde, man. Sometimes they're really good. Sometimes Geno's on fire. Sometimes they can run the ball. Sometimes they can't. Sometimes DK gets the ball. Sometimes he doesn't. Anyone who has Ken Walker in fantasy, I think he'll play this week for what that's worth. But, how frustrating his season has been. Sometimes he goes off. Sometimes he doesn't, and that they're a very sometimey team. I think that's the best way to describe them. And this is the wrong time of year to be sometimey. We talked to Dan to open the show how Mark was mentioning there's not much drama with the playoff, like who's going to make it and who's not. Everyone, like the whole AFC seems pretty much locked for the most part, and then the NFC seems to have like maybe 1 or 2 spots up for grabs. So it's kind of a drama-less season in December in that regard. Seattle is one of the few exceptions. Seattle and Los Angeles, like Seattle, these next 3 weeks are everything. Mike McDonald is trying to like set a tone here in year 1, and last week was really embarrassing, not just because of the score. You could hear "Go Pack Go" chants in the stadium. You could hear it on the broadcast. I later learned when I went back and watched. If you're a first-year coach of the Seattle Seahawks, the night games here used to be a thing, like a really big deal. Like teams they forget how to play ball because of the noise, false starts, everything. The Packers were getting "Go Pack Go" chants in the first quarter. Like, that's embarrassing, and that's the type of stuff ownership takes notice of when you're a first-year or however long you've been there, but particularly when you first show up. So not only do they need to win, but they need their fans to show out, and they got to give their fans something to give a damn about, because last week was embarrassing on a lot of levels.
And on the other side, Mark, you got – this is kind of like the Woody Johnson sucks ass bowl, because you got Sam Darnold against Geno Smith, 2 guys that the Jets ruined that went on to have really solid – careers. Obviously Darnold, this is his first year he's done it, but his next touchdown pass will be his 30th of the season. He was a little bit off on Monday night, but playing a terrible team obviously. And is he, for you, risen above the level of we got to keep an eye on him week to week, or you just figure like Darnold is going to deliver here? Obviously Minnesota needs the game because they now have a chance to steal the division and even the number 1 seed in the NFC, so the urgency should be through the roof for the Vikings in this game as well.
There has been, I wouldn't call it concerning, but more variance in Darnold's play after a really hot start. It doesn't concern me in this environment because I think Kevin O'Connell and the offensive roster in general, they're very healthy. Unlike, I think, Seattle's got a lot of guys that seem banged up right now. The Vikings are very healthy, and they find a way to overcome his up and down moments. And I think it's coaching. It's like you can point to the Jets for the 2 quarterbacks that they don't have. It's also the fact that like the Vikings found a way. They hit on the head coach. They've hit on the defensive coordinator. I think right now Darnold can play at an 80% level, and they can still win games. Now I think like in general, you're gonna run out of luck at some point there. But this may be the number 1 team in the NFC when we're done with this. Like the road is just theirs. If they win out, they're the team.
Jourdan, how about Kevin O'Connell? I know you've studied him, and I would, even as someone who's, queen bee bitch of the Darnold hive, like, you have to look at Kirk Cousins, where his career is at, and everything's being tied to, obviously, the Achilles and age, why he's now on the bench over there. But he came from Minnesota, where O'Connell was his coach and scheming up the offense. Darnold's career has been rejuvenated. I'd be a little bit nervous to go give Darnold a ton of money, and you don't get to have Kevin O'Connell come with you. So it speaks volumes, again, hitting on that coach. And I would feel good about, J.J. McCarthy as a result. The Vikings feel like they're in a really good place overall.
Yeah, I've been saying this, and I harken back to that feature that Alec Lewis and I wrote about Kevin O'Connell. Meant a lot to me that you guys shared it and talked about it. Like, that really did mean a lot to me, so thank you for doing that. And it was...
You're welcome.
At that time, he was Coach of the Year material. Still, he's Coach of the Year material because he raises quarterbacks' floors. You saw this with Kirk. Now, Kirk's floor has turned out to be, like, in the 7th circle of hell.
It's hard to, figure out him, but
Yeah, but, like, because of the injury. Yeah. But he raises quarterbacks' floors. I think that's one of the most important things you could possibly do as a coach. And I know I say it so much I should have it across my hat, but like that is the most important thing that an offensive or quarterback-minded coach can do. Sam Darnold, I think, is way less. He's still streaky at times, but he's way less streaky than he used to be. His highs are higher and his lows are higher as well. And, he still struggles against zone coverage. I think, even though the Seahawks, and Mike can talk about this in much more detail than I can, I'm sure, but like they mix their coverages a lot. They're able to do a lot of different things, especially when their front is clicking the way that they need it to. But Sam Darnold, even though he's seeing so much zone coverage, the 8th most in the league this year, he's also throwing interceptions against zone. Like he does have that variance specifically against zone coverage. 9 of his 10 interceptions were against zone looks per next gen stats. So I think that the Seattle defense could potentially give him problems if they run certain coverage looks that they've seen on tape be successful against Sam, which because they've looked malleable to me as a defense, they might be able to do. So, but still, I could not be more impressed with what Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold have done together this season. It's been a really cool thing to watch, and it makes you believe, like, you know, it's never too late to like get on the right track with things. If you find the right people in your life, if you are open about your flaws or anything, like you really, if you're a player in this league and you pair and you match into the right environment and you get mentally healthy, it is really cool to watch when players feel good, when people feel good, when they're with good people, like just how successful they can be.
Well said. And one of those people also, it's not just Kevin O'Connell for Sam Darnold, Justin Jefferson. I just want to give a shout out to Jefferson because I've watched every Vikings game and I don't even feel like he's having a vintage Justin Jefferson, like top tier Jefferson year, but he's still on pace. I just looked it up for 100 for 1,510. Like he's one of those special guys, like just, and you don't get to bring him with you either. So Vikings,
Jordan Addison too.
Yeah, he's a very good number 2. All right, let's head over to the Money Mike corner. How do we do in week 15? No. Oh, no. Oh, no. If you're listening to the show, Mike just is rubbing his face in agony with 2 hands. Check us out on YouTube, though, and subscribe. Go ahead, Justin.
The Week 15 parlay, Bills money line, winner. Packers money line, winner. And Panthers money line,
Oofa.
not a winner.
Hit him.
In fact, a loser.
Hit him.
That'd be the last time I believe in the Panthers. I think this season they finally were favored in the first time in like. Oh my gosh!
You a Fields of Gold guy with Sting, or is it Brand New Day? You like more like Turn of the Millennium Sting? Like, would you like soft rock from English songwriters born in the early 1960s? Like, where do you come down, or late 50s?
I don't even want to mention that name ever again.
He doesn't even say his name on the. He doesn't even say the corner's name on the show anymore. Dan, when he was doing his game, he would call him by his number because he didn't want the drop.
I love Sting. It just hurts so. It hurts so much. I wanted to believe in Dave Canales' guys so bad this week. They were finally favored. They got a decent matchup. The Cowboys aren't that great, and then they just peed down their leg, and they cost me money. That was unfortunate. It cost me a little reputation, too. We're going to bounce back this week, though.
Okay.
We're going to go with the G-Reg from the 7th floor, 3-legger. Again. And we're going to stay with the theme of threes. We're getting a lot of teams that have their spreads around 3 points, I think like 5 or 6 games. We'll take 3 of them. Seahawks +3, Commanders +3.5, Houston Texans with their corner, number 24, +3.5. Let's go win some money, folks.
This is a big one because now we're in a situation, people that are following along with you, Money Mike, it's Christmas week coming up, and we need a win.
I know. That's why I'm trying to take teams I actually feel decent about. 2 of them are at home, like, because the Panthers really hurt me.
This could dictate thousands of children like Santa coming this year or not. Like, not to put pressure on
I want you guys to be able to get your kids, new bikes, be able to take them to the child fair, and they can show off all the new toys.
The children at that concert.
I see them gathering in the auditorium. What are they doing? Why do they smile?
I mean, I have children, so I'm not completely, out of pocket when it comes to
Dada, why were you not at the child fair this year?
You stop.
All right, let's do fearless predictions. Let's take a look at how we did in week 15. I'm almost impressed. At a certain point, like me missing it every week, many times by the smallest of margins, is more impressive than just being, having 5 wins or whatever. So I'm embracing this. Bills Lions
spinning that.
Bills exactly. Bills Lions combined for 800+ yards and margin of victory no more than 3 points. I think they had maybe close to 1,000 yards, right?
Over 1,000 yards, yeah.
Over 1,000 yards, but the margin of defeat was what, 6 or whatever? Yeah. Come on.
You came close.
That's messed up. Marc Sessler, a non-QB, scores 4 touchdowns.
No.
Negative.
Jourdan Rodrigue, teams with non-human animal mascots will score 260+ points combined this week.
Okay, we need to talk about this.
All right, let's talk.
Oh, we do? Oh,
and before we get into this, remember that we kind of gave Jourdan one last week, so it might be a little more harsh.
I asked you guys to increase my total. I forgot one of the non-human animals. I'll wear that. I forgot
one
a
or
non-human
two
animal.
Oh,
I forgot the Seahawks.
What are the non-human
And
animals?
The
Who
Bears.
else did I forget? The Bears don't score points.
But they did score points, and that
They
affects
did
it.
score points.
Okay,
They are non-human
but I had,
animals.
to be fair, I had cleared it. The total that you guys set.
No, that's perfectly
I cleared
fair.
it
And
well before that.
if we look at just the 13,
But I f***ed up because I forgot about the Seahawks as non-human animals.
Can we do it
but is
this way?
Is it
Mascot
based
is
off
very
of her
human
reading?
looking.
Because I
Like,
remember-
based off of what she said verbally, because the
yes,
line
so-
itself is correct.
Right. So if we take the 13 non-human animal teams that she mentioned and just leave the
Yes.
Seahawks and Bears out of it,
Okay.
she crushed this number. 341 was the total, well over 260. And
Okay.
if we include the Seahawks and Bears, just for the sake of including them, we're at 366, which if you divide that by 15, it's still 24.4 points per non-human animal mascot team, which the floor that we had set was 20 points. So she blew this out of the water.
No
I also
controversy.
think
It's a
that-
win.
I also think, thank you, Justin. I also think that none of us, and we all talked about it too, guys, like none of us expected yet another highest scoring game of all time, like between two non-human animal teams, you know?
Yes.
So,
Mike, what do you think? Are you okay with it, Mike?
If we include the two teams that were omitted originally, it still hits the average that we set.
Yeah, clears it very, very handily. But another
Then yes,
thing,
that's fine.
the Bills, there's been pushback
Yeah.
that the Bills are actually named after Buffalo Bill and not
That I
a
wanted
bison.
to talk about.
They are.
'Cause I don't actually
Are
know.
they really?
Yeah.
That I wanted to talk about because I don't actually know the answer to that question. And I did get a message about that. And so what is it if we remove the Bills?
No, you know what? Don't worry about it, because if it was really
I do
named after
feel bad
Buffalo
about
Bill,
this,
they should have
yeah.
the logo would be some old dead white guy's craggy face,
Right.
but it's not. It's
Right.
it's a
we didn't
Bill,
flag
a
that.
Buffalo
We didn't
or
flag
whatever.
that last
They
week.
scored
so
48 points. The 13 teams you named scored 341, so you still clear 260
All
by
right.
a lot.
You got it.
This is zero controversy.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's move on. Gravedigger, Jamar Chase, and Derrick Henry combined for 350 plus scrimmage yards.
Not even close. 161.
Yeah, Henry did not have the game we expected. Michael-Shawn Dugar, who, very clearly, if you're watching the show, knows how to play this game. Safeties will account for 5+ interceptions and at least one touchdown of any kind.
I feel like we let him get away with one here because safeties combined for 11
Hey,
interceptions.
that's on us.
But only one touchdown, I believe, came
Yes.
from a safety.
He-
Yes,
Almost
it was
two,
The,
but yes.
the
I
Geno
think-
Stone pick
yeah.
six was the only.
I think Mike
touchdown
put us in a
yeah.
Tyreek Hill mind pretzel, and we just gave it to him. But let's
Well, I
pay
mean,
attention on him this week.
That's why I added the touchdown because you think about it, it's hard for safeties to score because if you look at all the interceptions that they had, a lot of them didn't even get yards after their returns. A lot of them had to fall down. They're deeper in the field. The only two
they're not
people
jumping
who came,
routes.
Yeah, the only
Well-
two people who came close was Caleb Bullock of the
I see
Texans.
what
He almost
Mike's
picked
doing.
six Tua, and then Geno Stone did pick six Will Levis.
And
Dan,
Jordan
does
Battle
it-
fumbled the
does it-
ball as he crossed the goal line, so he didn't score. But he almost
But
had
again,
it.
none of us flagged it when he brought it up. So it's like,
No.
And Dan,
Yeah.
does
Key
it
into the
bother
wind.
you even more that A, mine was unnecessarily complicated and I still nailed it, and B, Mike's was like kind of subtle in the way that you tried to be subtle with
Yeah.
yours, and Mike nailed his
Nailed
and you
it.
did not nail yours.
I-
Oh no, I'm sorry, guys.
That's me at your door to kill you for bringing that up.
Loser, loser, double loser, as if whatever. Get the picture, doy.
I also think I made mine a little difficult, even tougher because I removed Nichols from that situation
You did.
too. Which
You
is
did.
like,
Yeah, you
'cause
deserve it.
a lot of Nichols had picks.
And you also,
that kinda
and
threw it
this
off.
is an example of why Mike's good at this. He subtly, Mark, dropped into the conversation earlier that episode, like, man, safety play is bad this year. Oh, it's
Right.
like
No,
the
he was-
safeties
he
can't
was-
play this year. And then he
was
bangs us.
right, psychological warfare. I mean, I think in general, these happen at the end of the show, and it's our longest show of the week, and there can be some like kind of mental weight at the end where you're kind of like it's the last little segment we do, and some the wise ones are getting things beyond others.
we be
You and I are
concerned-
failing comprehensively.
I was going to say Jordan's been missing for a long time. I'm worried who's at the door. Okay, she's back now. All right, let's make Mike get us going. What, Jourdan, glad to see that you came back.
This is who was at the door.
I lived, bitch.
Oh, who was at the door?
Ah.
All right, Mike, your fearless prediction, and let's really plug in and pay attention to every word Mike says here, because we're gonna get a gotcha on him.
All right, so this is going to the theme of a story that I was working on this week. Actually, it's out now. I was talking to Jackson Smith-Njigba of the Seahawks about this receiver duo matchup of Seahawks Vikings. It features two of the three most productive receiver duos in the league, Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and DK Metcalf and JSN, the two of the top three receivers in yardage. Jackson said he and DK take pride in being the best receiver duo, and he believes the Seahawks have the best receiver room in the NFL. So I'm going to ride with JSN this week. My Week 16 prediction is that Seattle's receiver room will be the highest producing receiving group by yardage this week.
Against the Vikings.
How many, when you say group, do you mean 2 players, 3 players?
No, the entire, because Jackson thinks they have the best room, top to bottom. Jake Bobo, Tyler Lockett, DK, including. So, yes, their receivers will outproduce.
Okay.
Running backs out of the backfield?
No running backs. Okay. No tight ends. All the receiver yardage. And if you're curious, the Vikings
gonna get us again.
have allowed the most receiver yardage this season. Them and the Lions are 1 and 2. So that's my prediction. Riding with Jackson, and I'm kind of focusing on one game, as Dan has mentioned, that I usually give the whole league a shot. This is more a single game focus this week.
Interesting. How about you, Sessy?
So if memory recalls, I picked a situation where 4 teams win by at least 20 points. So 4 mega blowouts.
4 teams win by at least 20 points or more.
Yeah, I think I stunned the 4 major blowouts. I feel like every game, no matter what, it's a blowout early, and everyone climbs back in, and everyone's like,
not this week.
Going down to no. This is where I think the bow breaks, and we get 4.
We do have
hammers the head.
We do have 3 double-digit spreads this week, so this is. I mean, none of them are 20 points, but
all 3 of those, ostensibly, they don't have to, but they will go that way. It doesn't always work out. It's okay.
It has literally no effect on the human race whether I win or lose. Like,
right.
I have no chance of climbing back into this.
Jourdan, to what you were talking about earlier, I mean, you and Mike and Justin are so far gone in the competition. Now I'm just trying to chase Mark. So it's really just me versus Mark in the loser bowl at this point. Jourdan, you're up.
Okay, so we have 3 games that look like one team will just totally steamroll the other. Buffalo, New England, Rams, Jets, Chicago, Detroit. I am guessing one of those turns into a trap game and is an upset.
Okay. Oh, just straight up, like winner.
Straight up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like it.
I would talk about the money line.
Oh, here we go.
But I will need a reiterated definition.
What's gambling? I don't even know what you speak of.
You are picking the money line, so yes.
The Mooney line?
Wait.
What? We get it, Jourdan. You're very, very earnest and not connected to the gambling world in any way.
Never would dream of it.
This is like a round robin money line, I guess, technically. I don't know. We'd have to explain round robin. I don't feel like doing that.
Whenever gambling comes up, I picture those fairy tales where the fair maiden is up at the tower and she's just looking down upon all the filth below. Pure.
That's how your mind works.
I know how yours does. All right, let's go with Justin's pick.
My prediction is that, so Mike Evans last week, you talked about Mike Evans earlier. I wanted to say stick a pin in that because I'm coming back to it. Mike Evans set his season high in receiving yards last week, 159 yards. My prediction is that he will do that again. He will set a new season high in receiving yards this week his way to yet another 1,000-yard season. So he needs at least 160 receiving yards.
I won't reiterate it because I'm sure you guys are on the same page, but I feel a lot better about Mike Evans keeping his streak alive because it seems like he's
That's exactly what we agreed on, yes.
I will go with it's time. It's going to happen. Trey McBride currently 89 catches this year for 938 yards, 10.5 yards a catch. He's on pace to be targeted 141 times this year. He's scoring a touchdown this week. And again, this is when it happens. And not only is his streak going to end here, his lamentable, like, embarrassing streak, so will mine. So it'll be a massive, we don't know each other. We'll never talk about it. But when he crosses the end zone with the football in his hands or picks it up, he could recover. I heard he did recover a fumble for a touchdown this year. That doesn't count. He has to actually have a receiving touchdown this year or a rushing. And if it happens, we both celebrate. Trey McBride, it ends in week 16. He scores a touchdown.
I mean, can I just say one thing? He's catching like 10 passes a game. So it's not like
that's
he's not
the whole
part
thing.
of the offense. No, I mean, I get it's a quirky situation that he's in. It's almost stunning that he hasn't. But considering your place in the standings, I think if you were up at like vying for the number 1 spot, I would suggest it's a little bit not
please.
fearless. But
I'm literally predicting him to do something that he has not done all year. 0.
You're predicting him to make a bingo.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you,
Bingo
but
gets a bingo. Don't give it to me. I'll give it to you.
Gives me pause.
I'll give it to you, Sessler. You know what I mean?
Which you have done.
I'll give it to you.
You leave me alone.
Are we done? The guy's ass, which I've done.
Yes.
All right, good stuff.
Justin.
Be careful with that drop, Justin. We're just getting off the ground here. The show is gaining traction. We've had a great rookie year. I don't need one drop ending everything.
I didn't say that. You said that on a show. That's where it came from.
You'll be back at Fox, and Mark and I will be in a homeless shelter.
Right.
All right, great stuff. Thank you to Jourdan and Money Mike all year. You guys have delivered excellent work, and we appreciate you. And tonight we'll get the Thursday night recap, Mark, and then Friday morning the draft on Patreon with Connor, and then Sunday night we recap every game we just previewed here. So thanks to everybody, and until next time, heed the call. Careful, Justin.